I'm Vikram. I head product management for all the speech and natural language and search services at AWS Machine Learning. So today I'm going to talk to you about how you can reimagine your enterprise search with Amazon Kendra. It's a new service that we just launched at re:Invent this month, and I'm going to take you through all the different features, the problem that we're trying to solve here, what are the challenges, show you how you would actually configure Kendra to index all your enterprise data, and also talk to you a little bit about some customer use cases. Enterprise search is still a challenge today. And why is that? Employees spend 20% of their time looking for information, says one of the reports from McKinsey. Another report from IDC says 44% of the time they can't find the information they need to do their job. So what's the result, right? And why is all this happening? It's because low accuracy and complexity. And why do you have low accuracy? 80% of your enterprise data is unstructured, and finding the right answer in this unstructured text is a hard problem. Currently available solutions are all keyword engines, which means they just look for a keyword and return all the documents where they find that word, which means a lot of false positives and having to search through a lot of data before you find the answer that you're looking for. There's the complexity, because your data in an enterprise is spread over many different silos, right? So some of it is in a SharePoint, some in a file system, and so on. How do you get all this together? There's a lot of manual maintenance, and then it's difficult to set up. That's where Kendra comes in, right? What is the impact on the enterprise? It has lower employee productivity, because once they're spending all their time looking for data rather than doing productive work, that's time wasted. There's an increased risk and liability. So imagine there's an important SOP that you need in order to set up some sort of a process or an experiment, and you don't find that, and you follow whatever comes to your mind, that's a compliance risk. Duplication of work. Let's say someone's already done a piece of analysis, and one employee cannot find it, so they redo that whole thing, which means it's, again, wasted time. And then if you're using search to answer customer queries in your contact center, your agents are quickly trying to find answers. They can't find it. That's a negative customer support experience. All this results in a loss of more than $100 million if you're a decent-sized company. So how are we rethinking enterprise search? We launched Amazon Kendra. Let me take you through some of the core features of Amazon Kendra. It supports natural language queries. What do I mean by that? So you can actually ask a question like, where is the IT help desk? And it would give you an exact answer. It's built ground up using NLU and machine learning. What does that mean? Many search engines will tell you that they support natural language queries. But what they actually do is take the query, strip out all the stop words, and try to convert that into a keyword search. So your results are, again, the same. But Kendra is built ground up using machine learning, so it actually understands your question and tries to find an answer to that exact question. Domain expertise. What we've done with Kendra is trained it on a lot of the popular domains so that you get really accurate answers, whether your domain is financial services or healthcare, and so on. Native connectors. Kendra provides easy-to-use native connectors for you to be able to connect to whatever your sources are, your data sources. So that could be SharePoint or S3 or a database. Today, we have those three, and we'll continue to launch more. And all of that is automatically indexed by Kendra. And then we also provide a simple API and a console experience for you to test before you deploy. So what we're doing here is trying to address both the issues that I mentioned at the beginning of my talk, which is the accuracy, so it's easy to find what you're looking for, as well as the complexity, and by making it simple and easy to set up. Kendra does three things, right? The first thing is it finds the exact answer, and we call that reading comprehension. Second, it's able to find the closest FAQ. You're able to load FAQs into Kendra, and when someone asks a question, it'll also try and find the closest FAQ to the question that was asked. And then document ranking, where it's similar to the search experience you all are familiar with, where it gives you a list of ranked documents based on relevance, and it uses machine learning to do that ranking as well. Here's a few examples of the sort of questions that Kendra can handle. Where is the IT support help desk? I'll give you an exact answer, first floor. How long is maternity leave? Again, an exact answer, 14 weeks. But then you can ask a question like, how do I configure my VPN? So it knows that that is not a one-word answer, so it will give you that entire paragraph in which the explanation is present in some document that you've indexed. But if you still want to do your keyword queries, because that's what you're used to, you can still do that, right? You can just say health benefits or parking allowance, and we'll still get you the answers. I spoke about domain expertise. So today, we've got IT, information technology, financial services, insurance, pharma, industrial, and energy. And by the time we go GA, early next year, we're going to have the rest of the domains that we call out there. We want to have at least 16 major domains, and we'll continue to add more through the year. A big part of search is incremental learning, right? What do I mean by that? As you use Kendra, you want it to become better and better for your organization, right? It needs to know what sort of answers make the most sense for your organization, for your domain, and how your users are interacting with search, and whether they're finding the answers that they're looking for. So we take two sorts of feedback, implicit and explicit, right? So we got an ability for your customers to say they like it or they don't like it when you show the results, right? So that would be explicit feedback. If they're not providing that feedback, we also capture the click-through, right? So if you show them the results, and let's say they click on the third link, that means that that was the most important answer for them. So that data is captured as well, and then the model gets retrained so that it keeps getting better and better, and using that user input so that the relevancy improves over time. All this is happening automatically, but many of you may already have some search solution, and you may want to prioritize certain criteria because you already know how your data is laid out, you know your enterprise use cases, so we provide you that capability as well, right? So for example, you can prioritize a particular data source, or you can prioritize based on document freshness, or some department, or an author, or page views, right? Connectors. So today, like I said, we've got 3 connectors. So we have SharePoint, S3, and databases. And by the time we go GA and through the rest of 2020, we will have all the connectors that we're calling out here. You've indexed it. Now how do you test and deploy? We give you a user experience search screen right in the AWS console where you can start typing in your search queries. And you can see what the results look like. If you're not happy with it, you can tune the results. And once you're happy with it, then you can deploy. And how do you deploy? You can do 2 things, right? One is if you already have a search experience, you can just call the Kendra API in your search page. But if you'd like to take the experience that we've designed as part of Kendra, you can do that as well. I'll show you some screenshots so that you get a better idea of how this all works. Security. So for search, enterprise search especially, security is, I believe, one of the most important features because you're putting the most confidential documents into Kendra. So we have encryption in transit as well as at rest. And even if you want to use your own KMS key, you have that option as well. So if you don't use your key, we will use the service key to encrypt. But if you'd like to bring your own key, you can do that as well. Let's talk about how Kendra works. This diagram gives you a broad overview of all the various components in your enterprise search, right? So at the top, you have all your users who are firing off queries, and that's coming towards Kendra. And then at the bottom, you have all the data sources, whether that's your SharePoint or a file system and so on. And then in the middle, you have all the capabilities of Kendra, right? So you got the machine learning core, which is indexing all the text, making sense of the queries that are coming in and finding the right answer. You have all the tuning capabilities, the connectors, and so on. Using Kendra is simple. Just 3 steps, right? You start with creating an index, right? You give it a name, a description, and so on. Once you have the index, we've allocated all the required compute resources for your index. Then you add data sources to it. So like I said, we give you native connectors, so you can just say, I want to connect to S3, provide your credentials, and you're done. And then you can also set up how frequently you want to refresh that data source. Once it's done, it'll index everything and say it's ready, and then you start testing it, and then you deploy it. Let's look at some screens so that you get a real feel for what Kendra looks like. So this is your create index screen, right? So you provide an index name and a description. Then you provide an IAM role so that it uses that for all access control. And then, like I said, you can use your own KMS key if you'd like to. It's not required. If you don't, we will use our own key to encrypt all your data. Once you created it, then you go to the data source. Today we have 3, but we'll keep increasing the number of connectors we support. Each one will ask you for a different set of credentials, right? Because connecting to SharePoint is very different from connecting to S3. And then connecting to a database requires a different set of information. So you provide all that, and we're just showing you the estimated time that it would take to set up that connector, and then you start indexing all your data. FAQs. So this is another sort of data that you can upload or index in Kendra, right? So there's the FAQ page where you can just go and say add an FAQ. It shows you the format in which you can provide your FAQs, create a file like that, put it in S3, and provide the path here. We even give you a way to browse your S3 bucket so that you don't have to remember those paths. You just click through it, and all your FAQs get indexed. Now you're done. Start searching, right? So right in the console, you can type in your search query. In the future, we're going to add capability for autocomplete and such. Right now, we're in preview. Once you're happy with that, then you deploy. What do the results look like, right? So this is where the 3 pieces come in that I was talking about, right? So the search query is, where is the IT support help desk, right? And you see right at the top, it's the first flow, right? That's the read and comprehension answer, where it's giving you the exact answer. And it also gives you the paragraph where it picked it up from and the link to the document. Then it also shows you the FAQs that were matched, right? Based on the FAQ files that you loaded. And then at the end, you also have the documents ranked by relevance. one thing to note is the thumbs up, thumbs down, right? So that's the explicit feedback that I was talking about. So if you don't like that answer, you give a thumbs down. If you like it, you give a thumbs up. So that's going into your incremental learning process, and Kendra is getting smarter every time you provide it feedback. And that's available at every level, right? So that at the reading comprehension level, as well as for every document that you show in your search results. The next capability Kendra has is faceted search, right? So you may be familiar with this. Whenever you do a search, you get filters, right? And then you can click on whatever criteria you want your results filtered on. So that we call that facets, right? So this information is picked up from the metadata that you provide. So when you store your files in S3 or SharePoint or wherever, you also have the option of providing metadata for each of those files, and we ingest all of that. And based on that metadata, we provide you the list of facets based on which you can filter, right? The other thing that we also ingest is access control lists. So that's the information which tells you which user has access to which documents, and we ingest all of that. So that when you're searching, when your end user is searching, you have access to who they are because they've logged into your search application, and you get their details from your directory server, and you pass that to Kendra saying, this is who is doing the search, and then we know what those groups have access to, and then the search results get filtered based on whatever access that you pass to Kendra. A very important feature for enterprise search, because you don't want all employees to be able to see all documents, right? So you want to control what they're able to view based on their access levels. So that's your faceted search. Now, you tested everything, and you want to deploy it. Like I was saying, you have two ways to do it. One is if you already have a well-designed search experience, you can just hook it up with our API. But if you want to refresh that experience, or you're starting off new, you can also just take the experience that we've designed, right? We spent a lot of time designing this view so that the search results are really easy for customers to understand, and it's laid out in a very clean way. You can just take this page and use the code to build your own page. Or if you just want sections of it, you can do that as well. There's a deploy button that when you click it, all these sections get highlighted, and the code is available to you to copy and put that into your application. Spend a little bit of time on relevance tuning, right? Because we do a lot of machine learning to give you the accurate results, and then we also take the user implicit and explicit feedback, and then at the end of it, we're doing incremental learning. But in spite of all this, there may be some overrides that you may want to do in order to change the search results, right? To give immediate boost to your search results. And that's what we're going to talk about in this section. So we allow you to boost 3 types of metadata, right? So again, metadata is really important here. When you have the right metadata, your search results get better and better. So in the metadata, if you have things like title and author and description and so on, each of those fields can be boosted. So you can say, for example, that when someone is searching for a certain word, it's more important that it's in the title. I don't care as much if it's in the body, but I want to prioritize results where that word comes up in the title. Similarly, on date fields as well, like I was saying, freshness, right? So in many of the systems, documents keep getting refreshed and updated. So you always want to show the latest, most recent document when someone does a search. So you can boost the date field there as well. And then numeric fields. So you can boost fields like number of page views and so on, so that you get the document with the highest number of page views right at the top. And then you can also do ascending or descending, right? Because some numbers, the bigger the better. For some, the lower the better. Here's more examples. This is a data example. Let me talk quickly about some of our customer use cases, right? One of the big use cases for enterprise search is, of course, your internal search, right? So whether it is supporting any business functions, like the HR department can set up a search, or your IT department can have it, or any of the internal departments can have, or R&D, right? That's a big use case for us, where customers have all sorts of research papers and documents indexed, and when one of the scientists or one of the engineers is looking for information, they want that document to be found very quickly, right? So internal search is not always about like where's the IT help desk, right? A lot of search could actually be as part of their core work, especially in knowledge-based industries where they're trying to find information or analysis that has been done by another group or another team, and all these teams are trying to work together. It's super important to have good search capabilities. External search. So you can also use Kendra to set up search on your on your product website and so on, so that when customers come in there, they can actually just search for things and find that easily. Or you can actually set up an FAQ bot where they can ask questions, and then you will find the right FAQ and provide those answers to your customers. At the end of this, I'll also do a quick demo of an FAQ bot where we've integrated Kendra with Lex, which is our chatbot service, and deploy that in Slack. The other use case that we have is for ISVs, right? So if you have a CRM application or a content management application or e-discovery applications, right, you can power your search using Kendra. So wherever there is a use case of customers trying to find answers in unstructured text data, Kendra is the answer. So it's very, very flexible. You can integrate it into your websites, into your applications, into things like Slack. Should meet pretty much any need that you guys have for search. Let me take you through some of our customer references. First one I'd like to talk about is Sage. So Sage is a UK-based provider of business management software and services. And they have accounting, payroll, finance, HR, and other such capabilities. And they have more than 3 million customers worldwide. And what they did was, they used Kendra to provide search for their organization, right? So they had used many other providers before they came to us and spent a lot of time trying to optimize their search with those providers. But with Kendra, within a week, they just set it up and they start getting good results. And that's the reason why they became one of our reference customers for Kendra, even though we're not yet in full production. Even before we launched, they became a reference customer. The other use case is 3M. So this is the use case I was mentioning, right? Because what 3M does is, they are into adhesives, medical products, and everything in between, right? So they do a lot of R&D, and with chemicals and compositions and so on. So when their material scientists want to do new research, right, they need access to the information of prior relevant research. And that's where they're using Kendra. So if they don't find a particular data point, imagine how expensive it is for them to repeat that entire experiment, right? Because This is not like writing code and deleting and recompiling, right? So they actually have to, in the physical world, set up that whole experiment in the lab and go through the whole SOP of collecting results and so on. So having a good search solution, saves them a lot of time and money. And again, a common factor across all these customers is they all had something before that they were unhappy with, and the moment they started using Kendra, they saw immediate good results. The next customer I'm going to talk about is Woodside. So they're they're an energy company. They're based in Australia. Right? They're a pioneer of liquefied natural gas. And they've been around for more than 65 years. And there are millions of documents that have all the data that's been captured over all these years, right? About pipelines and plants and all that stuff. And they did not have a good solution, right? Again, spent multiple years trying to optimize one of the other solutions that was there. Started with Kendra. And simple things, right? Like what is the length of the pipeline at Pluto, right? Which is one of their plans. And boom, immediate answer. And that's what our customers really are surprised by, how quickly, without much effort from their side, Kendra is able to give them accurate answers. In fact, at reInvent, we had our customer on stage with us, and they spoke about their experience using Kendra, and so on. The other customer I'm going to talk about is WorkGrid, which is a Liberty Mutual, wholly owned subsidiary of Liberty Mutual. So they deliver software solutions in an employee experience platform to make work more connected and efficient. So they used Kendra, again, for employee search. And they, in fact, used it more in a chat sort of a situation, right? So a Q&A sort of a use case, and got great results. You can check out Kendra at that link there, aws.amazon.com/Kendra. It's in preview, so it's open to everybody. So you can just log in and start using it. Today we have what we call an enterprise edition, which gives you 3 AZs and many, thousands of documents and many thousands of queries that you can get from Kendra. And if in the future, once we are in GA, we're going to add an ability for you to keep adding more capabilities, more capacity as your needs increase. In preview, you can contact us if you need more capacity. So before you leave, I'd like to show you a demo. So this is the integration that I was talking about, right? So what we did was we took some of the EC2 FAQs, right? And we indexed that in Kendra. So now you have your search index. And then we built a Lex chatbot, deployed that in Slack. And then using Lambda, we connected that chatbot to Kendra so that whatever questions or natural language queries were coming through Slack, Lex would take that and then send that query to Kendra, get the answer, and send that back to Slack, right? So let me take you through some of the capabilities here that show you, exactly the value that you get here, right? So I start by asking, what is accelerated computing instances, right? So it gave me an answer. It's an instance family which uses hardware accelerators, coprocessors to perform some functions, and so on. And then I changed the question because that's how people speak, right? So everybody has their own way of asking a question, saying, what's accelerated computing? It's a small change, right? But for a keyword engine, this would be 2 completely different words, right? It still works. And then I said, OK, let me get a little more adventurous. I said, explain accelerated computing services, right? and that works as well. So this is what I mean by FAQ matching, right? So you can have one question set up in your FAQs, but your customers or your end users are going to interact or ask questions in their own way. They're going to paraphrase that, use other words to express that same question, but the answer is the same. So Kendra is able to understand that they're both the same question and be able to map that to the right FAQ within the list of FAQs that you've provided. So this is just one example of how you can deploy search, right? You can have search as part of your mobile application as well, right? So if you're having products that you sell from a mobile app, people are searching for things, you can hook up Kendra there as well. You can put Kendra on your websites, right? So whether it's your internal search website or it's your external facing website, you can have a search bar or you can have like a chat window at the bottom where customers can type in their questions.